One morning, Cameron lies in bed next to Diane, confessing their love to each other. The romantic moment feels perfect until Cameron suddenly wakes up, realizing it was all just a dream. Later, his parents, Hunter and Carol, argue about Cameron's future. Hunter insists it's time for his son to make concrete plans, while Carol urges him not to pressure Cameron so much. At the ice cream parlor where Cameron works, his assistant manager Lenny scolds him for being late and assigns him to close the shop that evening. Cameron protests, explaining that he has a date with Diane, but Lenny mocks him, doubting someone like Cameron could be dating such a beautiful woman. Meanwhile, a mysterious woman moves into the house next door, catching Cameron's attention. Cameron's co-worker, Liz, is also annoyed about covering the closing shift and doubts his date with Diane. Cameron defends himself, saying Diane has been his close friend for years and was the first person to contact him when she returned from college. After work, Cameron heads to Diane's house, where he finds her sunbathing in a bikini. However, trouble arises when local bullies, Chad and Jason, accuse him of spying on Diane and taking inappropriate photos. They smash Cameron's phone by throwing it into the street, where it gets run over by a car. Diane comes out to investigate the commotion, and Cameron hurriedly explains that he wasn't spying. Diane believes him, scolds the bullies, and sends them away. Later that evening, Cameron catches a glimpse of his new neighbor, Victoria, undressing through a window. Embarrassed when she notices him, he quickly hides. During dinner, Cameron tells his parents about his broken phone, but Hunter refuses to replace it, saying Cameron should have stood up to the bullies. The conversation is interrupted by a doorbell ring. To Cameron's horror, Victoria is standing outside, but when he timidly opens the door, it's Diane instead. Diane takes Cameron to a pizzeria, apologizing for the incident with his phone. At the restaurant, Cameron spots his friend Martin and invites him over, despite Diane's reluctance. Martin appears uneasy when he sees Diane and leaves abruptly. On the way back, Diane explains why. Martin had unexpectedly broken up with her at prom, leaving her heartbroken. Cameron is shocked and assures her he would never abandon someone like her. Diane fondly recalls a night when Cameron visited her and they drank her father's alcohol. She admits she had wanted to confess something to him that night, but he had fallen asleep. As they part ways, Cameron sees Victoria again and hurries home. However, when he enters his room, Victoria mysteriously appears behind him. Flustered, Cameron apologizes for peeping, insisting he usually sees an older woman in her window. Victoria reveals that she's staying in the house temporarily and demands that Cameron drive her around town for a few days as punishment. Cameron protests, saying he hasn't paid his car insurance, but Victoria firmly declares it's not her problem. The next day, Cameron reluctantly drives Victoria to an office building, where she takes his car keys to ensure he doesn't leave. While waiting, Cameron sees a bloodied security guard run out, begging for help. Moments later, Victoria emerges, killing the guard in cold blood. Cameron is horrified to learn she's a vampire. She warns him that if he wants to survive, he must comply with her demands. To seal the deal, she kisses him and leaves. The following day, Hunter notices blood on Cameron's car. Victoria conveniently explains that it's from a deer she hit, even offering to pay Cameron's insurance if he continues to drive her. Satisfied, Hunter doesn't question further, to Cameron's frustration. Later, Martin confesses to Cameron that he dumped Diane because he didn't know how to handle dating someone so beautiful. He even asks Cameron to help him win her back. That night, while waiting in the car for Victoria, Cameron is shocked when a lifeless body falls onto his vehicle. Moments later, Victoria returns, licking blood from her lips. Cameron cleans up the mess, but his fear grows. Later, Victoria appears in his bedroom and explains her presence in the city. She reveals that she's 247 years old and seeks revenge on a hostile vampire clan that killed her lover in 1890 for refusing to join them. Over the past century, the clan migrated to America, and Victoria has been hunting them down one by one. Relieved to learn she targets vampires, not humans, Cameron agrees to continue helping her. The next day, Martin nervously asks Cameron to go on a date with Diane, hoping it will ease his nerves. At work, Lenny is surprised to see Diane and Cameron talking comfortably. That evening, Victoria informs Cameron that she's about to destroy one of her final enemies and track down the leader who killed her lover. Despite her instructions to stay behind, Cameron follows her into the building. Inside, they encounter an armed enemy who shoots at them. Cameron pretends to collapse, distracting the attacker long enough for Victoria to pounce and kill him by biting his neck. When the fight ends, Cameron admits he faked his injury to help her. Grateful, Victoria agrees to appear at Martin and Diane's date the following day, giving Cameron an excuse to accompany them. Later, Liz invites Cameron to watch her friend's band perform, but he politely declines. On the date, Cameron breaks the awkward silence by mentioning Martin's passion for baseball and his dream of going professional. As Diane heads to the restroom during her date with Martin, Victoria suddenly appears and calls Cameron outside. Frustrated, Cameron confesses to Victoria that he's been in love with Diane for years, just like Martin. He explains his strategy. He wants Diane to spend time with Martin so she can see how dull he is and realize her true feelings. That evening, Cameron decides to confront his bullies, Chad and Jason. He shows them to Victoria, who deliberately provokes Chad into throwing a punch at Cameron. She then teaches Cameron a few powerful moves to defend himself. Emboldened, Cameron confronts Chad and lands a hard punch to his ribs, causing the bully to writhe in pain. Seeing this, the bullies finally agree to leave him alone. Back in the car, Cameron winces from wrist pain, and Victoria gives him a liquid from a small bottle, revealing it's her blood. She assures him it will heal his injuries without turning him into a vampire. That night, Cameron dreams of Diane again, but to his surprise, Victoria unexpectedly appears in his bed. She kisses him passionately, teasingly suggesting it might make Diane jealous. Their moment is abruptly interrupted when Hunter walks in. Embarrassed, Hunter quickly retreats, leaving Cameron mortified. Despite Victoria's advances, Cameron stops her, explaining firmly that he's determined to win Diane's heart honestly. The next morning, Hunter teasingly winks at Cameron during breakfast, much to his discomfort. Later, Martin complains to Cameron that the date went terribly after he left. Cameron reassures him, saying Diane isn't likely to fall for him anyway. Meanwhile, Victoria enters the clothing store where Diane works. Cameron, feeling conflicted about his relationships, confides in Liz and finally agrees to attend her friend's band performance that night. That evening, as Cameron prepares to head out, Hunter hands him a pack of gum with a sly grin, but Cameron's plans take a sudden turn when he notices Diane entering Victoria's house. Jealous and suspicious, he decides to skip the concert and rushes home instead. At the concert venue, Liz waits, disappointed and unaware of Cameron's change of plans. From his window, Cameron watches in shock as Diane and Victoria kiss. The lights in Victoria's house go out, and the two disappear into her bedroom. The next morning, Cameron sees Diane leaving Victoria's house, followed by Victoria, who teasingly asks, "Did you enjoy the show?" Furious, Cameron declares he won't help her anymore, but Victoria grabs him by the collar, insisting they finish what they started. Determined to distract himself, Cameron encourages Martin to take Diane on another date, promising to help him succeed. He then visits Liz at the cafe, only to be met with a slap for skipping the concert. Feeling guilty, Cameron heads to the clothing store, where Diane casually mentions Martin asked her out again. Later, Carol surprises Cameron with a new phone, but asks him to keep it a secret from Hunter. That evening, Cameron equips Martin with an earpiece and microphone for his date, coaching him from a distance. During the date, Diane subtly whispers into her own earpiece, revealing she was aware of Cameron's plan all along. She discards the earpiece, leaving Cameron stunned. Suddenly, Diane bites Martin's neck, exposing herself as a vampire. Shocked and heartbroken, Cameron retreats to Liz's cafe, but she's nowhere to be found. Soon after, Diane arrives, reassuring Cameron that Martin is alive. She shows him Martin, unconscious but unharmed, lying in the trunk of her car. Diane explains that she bit Martin to make him stronger, helping him achieve his dream of playing baseball professionally. She confesses her love for Cameron, admitting she was afraid he'd abandon her if he learned the truth. She also reveals her centuries-long existence and fear of losing loved ones to old age. Moved by her honesty, Cameron forgives Diane, and they share a heartfelt kiss. Unbeknownst to them, Lenny secretly spies on their intimate moment from afar. Later that evening, Victoria reveals she hadn't realized Diane was a vampire until she looked closer. She explains that Diane is part of the hostile clan she's been hunting. Victoria declares that Cameron will now serve as bait to lure Diane out. Sensing Cameron's danger, Diane shows up at his house, only to be confronted by Lenny, who smugly claims he knows her secret. Lenny threatens to expose Diane, but she swiftly overpowers him and drinks his blood. Moments later, Diane and Martin break into Victoria's house, finding her holding Cameron hostage. A fierce fight ensues between the two vampires. Victoria attacks Diane with a blade, but Diane fights back, ultimately pinning her to the ground. Diane then reveals the truth. A century ago, her clan leader became tyrannical, prompting her to escape. She sought refuge with Victoria's lover, who gave her his blood and promised her safety. However, her cruel leader discovered the betrayal and killed Victoria's lover in retaliation. Hearing this, Victoria softens. She apologizes and forgives Diane. The two vampires decide to abandon their vendettas and form a new clan together. Diane kisses Cameron goodbye before leaving with Victoria. Meanwhile, Lenny, now a vampire, appoints Liz as the new assistant manager at the cafe before departing with Diane and Victoria. The next day, Cameron announces to his parents that he wants to write a book about vampires. Back at the cafe, he shares his incredible story with Liz, but she laughs off his wild claims. Despite her disbelief, she invites Cameron in, signaling the beginning of a new chapter for him. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay updated with our latest videos.